Hey guys, Diane here, and today I'm going to be talking about some books I'm really excited to read this year. These are new releases for 2022, so some have already come out and some are coming out this summer, so let's get into it. Okay, so just to clarify, this list is only from January until August. I just did, half the year. I'm going to do probably more of a fall, fall, winter, anticipated reads like later. But the first book I have on here is Mastodon by Steve Stred, and this actually came out in January of 2022. And I probably would have read it if I would have known. I just came across it like recently, so if I would have known, I probably would have read this already. But we'll see. So this is more of a novella. It's only 234 pages, and this is about a couple, like, they go hiking and she's pregnant because who doesn't want to go hiking when you're pregnant? Like, anyways, so they go hiking like in the Rocky Mountains and she ends up going into labor. So she has the baby like up in the mountains and then she just disappears. And so I guess the dad takes the baby down and life goes on. And then 17 years later to the day, the father also goes missing in the same area. Like, he's flying somewhere, he's flying over that area, and he also goes missing. So the son is trying to figure out like what happened, what's going on. Like, both of his parents go missing in the same exact spot. And this is described as like a kind of like a creature feature, which I always love to read. I like creature features, or I always think they're a lot of fun. Okay, so moving on to our next book is it's Echo by Thomas Olde Heuvelt, and this was actually released in February. It's about 400 pages, and this is by the same author that did Hex. If you have read Hex, that was a really good read. I really enjoyed that one. So I'm assuming I'll enjoy this one. But this is about a traveling journalist, and he's also a mountaineer. So he's really outdoorsy. Him and his friend go hiking, and he ends up like getting injured. Somehow he gets injured. He wakes up from this coma. That's how bad he's injured. He wakes up from this coma, and his friend is missing, presumed dead. From what I read, it sounds like that he does remember what's happening, but he can't speak. So he's not able to really, tell anybody what happened, or explain to them like what's going on. So it sounds it's described as mixing supernatural survivor horror and adventure, which is right up my alley. Okay, so for my next book is Face the Night, and this is by Alan Lastufka, and this actually came out in March. It's about 400 pages, and this is about a woman. She's a sketch artist, like she's a rookie sketch artist, and she actually has like a haunted past. She is actually, so instead of sketching people that are being described to her, she's sketching someone from her memory or someone from her nightmares. And it doesn't really say whether it's like a person or a creature, but this sounds really cool. When I was reading the synopsis, I was like, oh man, that sounds like, something that I would really enjoy. So she's a haunted rookie sketch artist, but she's also going through like this custody battle, I guess, with her dad for some reason. He wants to take her son away. I didn't really tell you why, or like the circumstances surrounding that, but so this just sounded, even from the cover was really cool, and this just sounded like something that I would, really enjoy. I'd really be into. So this next book, The Yellow Sign by James Hodges, I'm super excited about this book. I think I'm probably the most excited about this book. I'm about to order it as soon as I finish my other two books I'm doing right now, because I'm trying to finish stuff before I buy a new book, but we'll see. So this actually came out in March. It's more of a novella. It's 242 pages, and this is about an FBI agent, and she had infiltrated a cult, and she was almost sacrificed like through this cult. It doesn't really tell you, much other than that. But so she's almost sacrificed from that cult. Anyway, she's moving on, trying to move on with her life after that. When one of her friends goes missing, and so she has to try and kind of go find them and see like what's going on. Somehow they were pulled into a cult, so she's got to infiltrate another cult. But this one seems more welcoming and more, I guess, just the way it was described, it seemed like she was more open to this cult, to where it would be along the lines of something like she would kind of enjoy, I guess. But it was described as, she was being pulled into a Lovecraftian cult. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds really cool. So this one I'm super excited about. I can't wait to read this. So Friday, probably when I get this, is probably what I'm going to do. I'm just going to sit down and read this because I'm super excited about this book. Okay, so my next pick is another cults book. I didn't realize I was so into cults, but apparently I am. So this is Just Like Mother by Heltzel, and this came out in May. It's about 320 pages, which is like probably one of my favorite lengths, is about 300 pages. That's usually pretty good. So this is about Maeve. She escapes a cult, and she rebuilds her life in New York. She's, moving on, doing her thing, and her cousin comes back into her life, which was also in the cult, but she's also escaped, and she's real big in like fertility clinics, and she's making a living with, doing fertility and, whatever she's doing with that. And so they kind of come back together, and they, rekindle their relationship to where, they kind of depend on each other. It makes it seem like they're really close, and that's really the only family members they have left, I'm assuming. At least that's the way it sounded in the synopsis. So they kind of come together, but she's kind of starting to pull Maeve away from her life in New York and pulling her more out into, her way of life and her way of thinking. So, and from what I remember, she starts thinking of, or she starts remembering, some trauma that she had buried, or, whatever. So this sounds really cool. The covers are really good. I'm a very visual person, I guess, so the cover really grabbed me. And I wouldn't honestly really say that I'm that into like cult books or anything, but there's like 2 cult books on here. I did a cult book review like last week. I watched a cult show the other day, so apparently I'm a very big cult fan. I don't know. I didn't realize that about myself until I really started writing it down. So yeah, but we'll get into the next one. So for my next pick is From Below by Darcy Coates, and this comes out actually June 7th, and it's about 350 pages. And for some reason, I haven't read a Darcy Coates book yet. I don't know how. I've been reading like the horror genre nonstop for like 5 years and haven't read one of her books because I hear so many good things about them. I own a few of them, but I don't know. I just haven't got around to it. But anyways, back to From Below. This is about it's about the SS Arcadia. It goes missing on just like a routine voyage, doing whatever they do down there, and the SS Arcadia, it turns up like 60 years later. It's 300 miles off course. It's like, no one knows what's going on, like what happened. And so Cove, I guess the main character, and like that's the most adorable name I've ever heard. If I was having another kid, her name would be Cove. Someone I know is having one, so that's what they're going to name their kid. So anyways, but Cove and her team, they're going down there to like investigate, figure out like what's going on, and hopefully things get weird, and it's like either a haunted ghost ship, or which is a vibe I got when I was reading what the book was about, was it's probably going to be something along those lines, like a haunted ghost ship, which is like one of my favorite tropes. I love haunted anything, and under the sea stuff is like my favorite. I love anything like under the sea. It's just like, I don't know, it's just always been really fascinating to me. Like even at night, sometimes I'll put on like wave sounds. I try not to do it that often because it freaks my husband out. So I'm like, fine, I guess I'll put something, calming, like Snapped on. I don't know. So that's even worse. But for some reason, like I don't remember the last time I have gotten through a Snapped episode that I didn't fall asleep in. I like, it just puts me to sleep. I really don't. I couldn't tell you why, but I don't know. Maybe I really couldn't tell you. But anyways, that's way off subject. So, but this sounds like a really fun book. Like I said, I'm really excited to finally read a Darcy Coates book. I've been wanting to for so long, but I just haven't gotten around to it, or something else pops up, something newer, or something I've been meaning to read. So I'm super excited about this one, and I'll probably start this next week. With this video, I'm like, oh man, there's so much that I have to read. And I already had another video for my summer pick, so I have a lot to do. But I'm really excited about this one. Okay, so for my next pick is The Lake of the Dead, and this is by Andre Bjerke, I think is how you say it, Bjerke? Something like that. It probably sounds way better in Norwegian, but this is a Norwegian book, and it's actually being translated into English as of June 22nd. And this is supposed to be, I guess, Norway's all-time bestseller. Like, it's just amazing. There's actually a movie about it. It's been a while, but so this is about the dead man's cabin, which obviously who wouldn't want to go there? The dead man's cabin, and this is a site of tragedy. A guy went there, he went crazy, he ended up killing his sister and his sister's lover, and then he kills himself, throws himself in the lake. So it's kind of, a haunted place, and it's like folklore that he still haunts that area, and anyone who stays at that cabin also ends up killing themselves by throwing themselves in the lake. So moving on a little forward, a writer goes out there, finish a book, nice quiet place, I guess. He's thinking, this is a cool place to finish a book. I don't know what kind of book he's writing, but so he goes out there and he ends up going missing, and the police are like, he probably killed himself, probably threw himself in the lake, which I guess they have some sort of evidence, pointing to him, maybe possibly killing himself. But he has, I guess, some friends that are like, no, it's probably not what happened, blah, blah, blah. So this sounds like something that I would love. I love, like, a cabin in the woods is just like, I just love it. It's so, like, to me, it's like so atmospheric, and really anything can happen in a cabin in the woods. You can have a good time, you get a bad time, you could be, who knows. A cabin in the woods is like the perfect setting. So to me, this sounded just like amazing, and it feels summer to me. The lake of the dead. I don't know if I really want to be at that lake, but who knows, might be a good time. So I'm really excited about this book as well, and I'll probably read this in June. I just have to add this to my June list, which is growing like by the day. But yeah, so this is definitely something that I would recommend checking. I mean, I haven't read it yet, but from the synopsis, I'm recommending it to you. Okay, so for my next book is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, and this actually comes out in July. And this is more of a novella. It's 176 pages. I've read some of this author. I read, what's it called? The Twisted Ones. I read some of it. I didn't finish it. I wasn't a big fan. I'm going to give it another try because the cover's really cool, for one, and this book sounds really interesting. So this is basically, I guess, a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The House of the Usher, which I've never read. I don't really know anything about The House of the Usher other than it sounds really cool. So, that's all I needed. I'm just going to try it. It's only 176 pages, so, if I don't like it, it won't last very long. So I'm going to try this one and, see how that goes. Like I said, I do like a good novella because it's short. You read it, move on, do something else. So. Okay, so for my next pick is Blackmouth by Ronald Malfi, and this also comes out in July. It's about 400 pages. And this is described as for people who like it. And if you've seen any of my other videos, I probably mentioned it quite a few times because it's like my all-time favorite book. One of my all-time favorite books. And so this is, it's about a group of friends that return to their hometown to confront a nightmare they stumbled across as teenagers. So that in itself just sounded really cool to me. I like it when it's like people coming back and they're trying to figure out, what's going on in, the small town. It seems like maybe there's like a creature or some serial killer, something crazy going on there. So that sounded really fun to me. And I've read some other Ronald Malfi books. I read Come With Me this past spring time, somewhere in between, somewhere in there. And I really liked that. I really liked his writing style. I really liked that book. I kind of flew through that book. So I'm anticipating that this book is going to be just as good. Okay, so now I'm moving on to Clown in the Cornfield 2, the sequel of Clown in the Cornfield. And if you read the original Clown in the Cornfield, it was so good. It's by Adam Cesare. And this was like the perfect Halloween slasher, very like nostalgic kind of, they're in a cornfield, it's like high school kids, and it just feels very, very like fun Halloween. So the first one was amazing. I really loved it. And so the second one, I won't say too much about it because, like I said, I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't read the first one yet, because if you haven't read it, you're missing out, definitely. But I'm going to read, this comes out in August, but I'm not going to read it until October, because October is probably one of my favorite months to read for obvious reasons, because that's usually when I try and put my more like atmospheric reads. I don't really necessarily put dark reads in October because I read that like all year round. There's nothing. October I have more books, but they're almost lighter in October, just because it's more like fun and festive, and it just tends to happen that way. So that's definitely something I'm gonna be checking out in October, and so yeah, just a super fun Halloween read. Well, thanks for listening, and thanks for tuning into my channel and listening. And if there's any books that came out this year that you would like to recommend, please leave those in the comments. It's hard to find all the good books that come out. There's so many. It's really hard to keep up with. So really appreciate if you guys would, leave them in the comments. Let me know, like, if I'm missing anything. So please just like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.